Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I have swatches for you from the Coquette Collection from Cuccio Colours. So there are 8 new cream polishes here for spring. They are all very neutral and muted and actually really beautiful, so I'm really excited to share these with you today. In the description box below I will link the Cuccio site, I will link their Instagram page, and I will link my Instagram page where you can see more swatches of everything from this collection. And if anybody knows how to properly pronounce the brand's name, let me know. I might be saying it wrong. I googled it and it was Cuccio, but I don't think that's right either. It might be right. Cuccio? I don't know. I feel weird saying that. Let me know if you guys know. But we have 8 polishes to look at today, and let's go ahead and get started. So first we have Flirt, and this is described as a pure cotton white cream. So here's our first coat of Flirt. So this is pretty patchy on this first coat. Formula on all of these across the board is really thin. You do have to be very careful to work with it. You will notice over the first 2 polishes that I show you today, I regularly flood my cuticles. I make a big mess, and then if you bear with me through to the 3rd polish and beyond, the polishing gets much easier. I found with all of these, it does make a huge difference in the world how heavy-handed you are. So typically I push decently hard on my brush and on my nail, so it makes for a messier application for this collection. If you go in with a nice light delicate hand, you will notice between the first 2 polishes and the remainder of the collection how different application is. So here's our 3rd coat of Flirt, and that does cover completely in 3 coats. This is going to dry down nice and glossy all on its own. You will want a top coat to finish this off though, in case you want your manicure to last any length of time. Obviously this is just a cream, so nothing in here is going to dry textured and nothing in here is going to be difficult to remove. So there's 3 coats. Next up we have Left Wanting More, and this is described as an au naturel beige cream. So here's our first coat of Left Wanting More. You can see again the formula on this is pretty thin. It does want to run and pull if you do too thick of a coat. That does go for everything across the board in this collection. Again, this one I was still struggling with pushing too hard on my brush, so application does get pretty messy throughout. Definitely better than the last polish, but it's still got a little bit messy for me. The next polish is where I kind of figured out where using a light hand comes in handy in this collection. So bear that in mind. Working too thick of a coat or a heavy hand, you will get some running and pulling with this one, but with this collection, but nothing in here stains, so it's, you know, pretty nice. So this is completely opaque in 3 coats for me. Again, this one is going to dry down nice and glossy all on its own. That top coat is only there to help your manicure last a little bit longer. And once again, this is a cream, so nothing in here is going to dry textured and nothing in here is going to be difficult to remove. So there is 3 coats. Next up we have Hair Toss, and this is described as a soft eucalyptus cream. So here's our first coat of Hair Toss, and you can see application between this and the last 2 polishes is night and day. Formula on this is again thinner, a little bit finicky to work with a lighter hand and you will have no problems at all. You do also have to work in a little bit thinner of coats to avoid that running and pulling as well. But these do all self-level really nicely, so I also found you don't have to manipulate them too much. So here's our 2nd coat, and that does cover completely in 2 coats. It's amazing how much a world of a difference it makes to apply these properly, where I thought I would need 3 coats with everything across the board. But again, this one's going to dry glossy all on its own, and nothing in here is going to dry textured, and nothing in here is going to be difficult to remove. So there is 2 coats. Next up we have Why Hello, and this is described as an airy yet grounded sage cream. So here's our first coat of Why Hello. So this one is also pretty sheer and streaky on the first coat. Again, the formula is the same as everything else in this collection, a little bit sheer, a little bit on the thinner side. Wants to run and pull if you work a little bit too thickly. Again, you will want to apply this one with a nice, soft, delicate hand to make application easier. So here's our second coat, and that does cover completely in 2 coats. Depending on your application, you may want to go in for a 3rd coat of this one. Again, just like everything else in this collection, this is going to dry nice and glossy all on its own, and nothing in here should be difficult to remove. It is just a cream, which also means nothing in here should dry textured. So there's 2 coats. Next up we have Bite Your Lip, and this is described as a lukewarm nude cream. So here's our first coat of Bite Your Lip. And just like everything else with this collection, the first coat is a little bit sheer, a little bit patchy, pretty streaky. Formula, just like everything else in the collection, is a little bit on the thinner side. It will run and pull if you work in too thick of a coat or work with too heavy of a hand. I'm going to be repeating myself throughout the rest of this collection. I feel like I shouldn't even talk, honestly, but what kind of fun is that? So here's our second coat, and that does cover completely in 2 coats. This is another one that, depending on your application though, you may need to go in for a 3rd coat. This one, just like the rest of everything else in this collection, will dry glossy on its own. You will want a top coat for longevity purposes only. So there is 2 coats. Next up we have Wink, and this is described as a delicate yet dusty pink cream. So here's our first coat of Wink. And just like everything else, this is pretty sheer, a little bit patchy on the first coat. Formula is a little bit on the thinner side. Could be difficult to work with if you apply how I normally do. Just apply with a nice, delicate, soft hand. Of course, like I've said 15 times. So here's our second coat, and that does cover completely in 2 coats for me. I actually thoroughly love this color. Spoiler alert, it's not my favorite. This was definitely close to being my favorite of the collection though. I love how this color looks on my skin tone. This one, just like everything else in this collection, is going to dry nice and glossy all on its own. You will want a top coat just to help it last a little bit longer though. So there is 2 coats. Next up we have Follow Your Butterflies, and this is described as a tranquil, cool blue cream. Here's our first coat of Follow Your Butterflies. So again, a little bit sheer and patchy here on this first coat. Formula is the same, a little bit thin, could be difficult to work with if you work in too thick of a coat or apply with too heavy of a hand. I will say I do get a lot of comments about my bottle intro shots not matching the colors. I did want to go ahead and point out while I have some time, and I just don't want to continue to repeat myself, that the parts where I'm painting my nails are definitely color accurate. The parts where I'm showing the bottles can definitely be blown out. So bear that in mind. Those aren't always as color accurate as me painting my nails. So here is 2 coats. And lastly for today we have Take Your Breath Away, and this is described as a powdery purple cream. And here's our first coat of Take Your Breath Away. So just like everything else in this collection, a little bit sheer and patchy here on this first coat. Formula is a little bit on the thinner side. Not super difficult to work with if you know how to apply these. You do have to work with a lighter hand and a thinner coat. So here's our second coat, and that does cover completely in 2 coats for me. Again, depending on how you apply, you may need to go in for a 3rd coat of this. This will dry nice and glossy all on its own. Nothing in here is going to dry textured. Nothing in here is going to be difficult to remove. And another spoiler, I really love this color on me too. Again, I didn't pick it as my favorite, but it is absolutely stunning. So there is 2 coats. So my favorite of the collection is Hair Toss. This is definitely the most unique in the collection for me. It's a very dusty kind of putty shade, but it has like an olivey twist to it. Really, really like this. It's very flattering on my skin tone. It has a really good formula. I think this is a standout in the collection. Highly recommend. Hair Toss. And guys, that is it. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of this collection. Let me know if you plan on picking any of them up, and let me know what your favorite was. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you'd like to see more from me, and I will talk to you again next time.